Hello, everyone, and welcome to this virtual classroom. My name's Isaac, and I'm glad that you're here with me today because we're going to dive into two important educational laws in Spain, the controversial LOMCE and the infamous LOMLOE. Understanding these laws is super important for us teachers because they really shape our classrooms and the way that we teach. So let's break them down together. Let's start with the LOMCE, also known as Ley Orgánica de Mejora de la Calidad Educativa. This law was enacted in December 2013 during the government of Mariano Rajoy, so a long time ago. It aimed to improve the quality of education by introducing a series of measures, including standardized testing at different stages, increased autonomy for schools, and an emphasis on bilingual education. One of the key advocates for the LOMCE was José Ignacio Wert, the Minister of Education at the time, who believed these reforms were essential to enhance educational outcomes. And let's just say that he wasn't very popular among teachers or students.
Desde el Sindicato de Estudiantes lo que vamos a pedir en la manifestación va a ser lo que venimos demandando desde el primer momento. En primer lugar, que se devuelvan los 5.000 millones de euros que nos han robado la educación pública, que se readmita a los 60.000 profesores que se han despedido ya, que el ministro Wert dimita de inmediato y, por supuesto, que retiren la LOMCE, porque es una reforma que no es que tenga cosas malas, es que es mala en sí misma, ¿no? Pretende echarnos de la educación lo antes posible, de la educación pública, y pensamos que tiene que ser eliminada desde la primera letra hasta la última.
Pública para todos.
Many felt that his policies prioritized standardized testing over meaningful learning experiences, leading to widespread protests and criticism from those who believed the reforms undermined the quality of education.
Yo creo que la ley Wert es profundamente antidemocrática, para empezar, por cómo ha sido diseñada, concebida e implementada. Una sociedad democrática no debería permitir que algo tan importante como es su sistema educativo se reforme, se cambie, sin ningún tipo de consulta con lo que es la comunidad educativa, ¿no? Ni los padres y las madres, los estudiantes, el profesorado no se ha contado con ellos.
Es una ley profundamente autoritaria porque genera un modelo educativo que es autoritario. Ponen un tipo de dirección absolutamente servil, el profesorado no tiene ninguna autonomía, porque le van a decir todo lo que tiene que hacer en las aulas, cómo se va a evaluar eso y, por lo tanto, destinado a enseñar trucos a los estudiantes para que aprueben las reválidas y las evaluaciones externas que les pongan.
La vida escolar va a quedar dañada totalmente por los recortes que se están haciendo en cuanto a la formación del profesorado.
Eso es abrir una brecha peligrosísima que cuestiona la base del Estado de Derecho. Lo que se propone es transformar el sistema educativo en una máquina de generar mano de obra dócil, mano de obra barata, mano de obra que no cuestione, que no critique, que no conozca ni exija sus derechos. Eso supone un retroceso enorme en lo que entendemos que es un sistema educativo en una sociedad que pueda considerarse democrática.
Es una ley que está destinada exclusivamente a excluir y a segregar dentro del sistema educativo, a excluir a unas personas mediante esos mecanismos de reválidas y, por otro lado, a segregarlos por clase social, por etnia, pues en colegios privados, concertados, y destruir lo más rápidamente posible lo que va quedando de la educación pública.
Fast forward to December 2020, the LOMLOE, o Ley Orgánica de Modificación de la Ley Orgánica de Educación, was approved, marking a shift in educational policy. This law was introduced by the coalition government led by Pedro Sánchez and advocated by the Minister of Education, Isabel Celaá. The LOMLOE, which people used to call it Ley Celaá, aimed to address some of the criticisms directed at the LOMCE, focusing on inclusivity and a more holistic approach to education. However, Celaá faced a lot of criticism as well for how the law was implemented and for not involving teachers enough in the process.
Esa ley es un despropósito porque es inoportuna, llega en un momento que nadie lo había pedido de esta manera. Es una ley que no tiene ningún tipo de consenso, no ha sido tratada nunca con la comunidad educativa, con nadie. Regalar el aprobado no sirve más que para justificar una igualdad pretendida que lo único que hace es empobrecer a esos niños y que no les ayuda en absoluto.
Many felt that although the goals of the LOMCE were good, the way it was carried out didn't fully meet the needs of students and educators.
Así estaban esta mañana a las puertas del Congreso de los Diputados, asociaciones y familias protestando contra la nueva ley de educación que se votaba adentro. La Comisión de Educación va a aprobar ya hoy la ley CELA.
Sandra, la nueva ley de educación arrastra también otros debates, por ejemplo, por el uso del castellano. Desaparece la mención del castellano como lengua vehicular en la enseñanza.
Es la octava ley de educación de la democracia y, como todas las anteriores, llega rodeada de polémica.
El fin de la libertad de las familias a poder elegir el tipo de educación que quieran para sus hijos.
La enseñanza concertada se siente en el punto de mira de la LOMLOE.
Será el Estado el que asigne aquella plaza escolar que considere que es la mejor y más idónea para nuestros hijos, en lugar de hacerlo nosotros como padres.
Empezando por prohibir que los colegios concertados cobren por las actividades complementarias en horario lectivo.
Si recibe dinero público del Estado, pues que se sepa dónde va a parar el dinero. Yo soy de las que paga aquí en el cole la hora complementaria y bueno, no me parece mal que nos la cobren.
Los centros que segreguen por sexo dejarán de recibir ayudas.
Si quieren un colegio de niñas, pues que las paguen los padres.
Suprimiendo estas frases de la ley, desaparece el carácter de lengua oficial del Estado del castellano, igualándolo en importancia al resto de lenguas oficiales.
Estamos en Cataluña, aquí se habla el catalán.
Me parece muy mal que lo saquen, muy mal.
También muchas familias con menores con alguna discapacidad temen que la LOMLOE asfixie a los colegios de educación especial y todos estos niños acaben en los colegios ordinarios sin medios ni preparación para atenderlos.
And that is how we are in Spain. We love to criticize everything and we are never fully satisfied, are we?
Typical Spanish!
Okay, so now that we have the basic background of these two laws, let's explore the key differences between the LOMLOE and the LOMCE that are relevant for you as a teacher. These differences bring about significant changes in educational approaches, assessment methods, and curriculum structure. Here are some of the most important ones to keep in mind. Point number 1, competency-based approach versus academic approach. So first up, let's talk about the differences in educational focus. On one hand, LOMCE leaned more towards an academic approach, really emphasizing content and memorization. It introduced the famous learning standards to measure students' knowledge in a very concrete way. Consequently, this approach meant that students were often evaluated based on their ability to recall information and demonstrate specific factual knowledge, reinforcing a more subject-specific and standardized style of learning. On the other hand, the LOMLOE puts a greater emphasis on a competency-based approach. It's all about the competences these days. It prioritizes the development of skills like critical thinking, creativity, and communication abilities, leading to a more holistic approach. By placing greater importance on these skills, LOMLOE involves active learning practices where students are more engaged in discussions, collaborative projects, and real-life applications of the knowledge. The objective is not just to teach content, but to make sure that students can apply what they learn meaningfully in their lives. Point number 2, elimination of the learning standards. Next, let's chat about the learning standards. LOMCE introduced specific valuable learning standards that were quite detailed, which meant that teachers had to stick to a very strict evaluation framework. This strict evaluation framework wanted to ensure consistency in the assessment process, but it also limited teachers' flexibility to adapt their teaching methods to meet the diverse needs of the students. In contrast, the LOMLOE gets rid of those standards and replaces them with more general evaluation criteria focused on developing competences. This change gives teachers greater flexibility to adapt their teaching to meet the unique needs of the students. Therefore, from now on, you don't need to worry about learning standards because they have been eliminated from the syllabus. Thank God.
Thank goodness!
Point number 3, promotion and graduation. Alright, now let's talk about promotion and graduation rules. Under the LOMCE, standardized exams were introduced at various educational stages. These exams, known as revalidas, were designed to assess students' performance consistently across the country. If students didn't pass certain subjects, they were not allowed to move on to the next grade or receive their diploma, which many people criticized heavily. Critics argued that this focus on exams limited a student's ability to develop other essential skills and to enjoy a more well-rounded education. Nonetheless, the LOMCE eliminated these standardized exams, shifting the focus to a more holistic evaluation. This new approach gave teachers greater autonomy to make promotion and graduation decisions based on a student's overall progress rather than just the number of subjects they passed or failed. By looking at the student's growth as a whole, teachers can now consider factors like effort, improvement, and the skills they had developed, offering a more balanced view of each learner's strengths and challenges. The good news is that we still have the authority to decide whether a student progresses to the next level or needs to repeat the previous one. We still have the power. Point number 4, religion and optional subjects. Let's move on to talk about religion. The LOMCE made it mandatory for schools to offer religion as an optional subject, but it went a step further by counting the religion grade when calculating the student's average grade. For students who didn't choose religion, the alternative was a subject called Social and Civic Values, which covered topics on citizenship and ethics. This setup positioned religion as a subject that could influence academic outcomes, giving it weight comparable to core subjects. This inclusion of religion in the average grade calculations sparked debate and discussions on whether public schools should prioritize religious studies in this way, especially when the alternative, social and civic values, didn't hold the same academic weight. Teachers had to manage this divide, balancing lessons for both students who chose religion and those who didn't, which sometimes made class planning and grading a bit tricky. However, with the LOMLOE, religion remains an optional subject, and its grade no longer counts when calculating the average grade. Instead, the focus shifts towards reintroducing education in civic and ethical values, a subject designed to promote civic understanding, social responsibility, and ethical awareness. This change reflects a more inclusive approach, aiming to equip students with values that support social cohesion and responsible citizenship, while offering religion as a non-graded option for those who are interested. Point number 5, formative and continuous assessment. The previous educational law in Spain, LOMCE, placed a strong emphasis on final exams and standardized testing as the primary means of assessing students. This approach focused on measuring learning outcomes at the end of a term or school year, with less emphasis on assessing students' progress throughout the whole learning process. This evaluation often relied on objective measures such as exams and formal tests, which could overlook individual growth and the learning journey that students actually experience. On the contrary, the LOMLOE introduces a more comprehensive approach to assessment by promoting formative and continuous evaluation. This approach gives significant weight to how students develop skills, understand concepts, and demonstrate learning through various activities, not just final exams. Under LOMLOE, assessment is ongoing, allowing teachers to adjust their instructions based on the students' progress. It emphasizes feedback, self-assessment, and peer evaluation, aiming to create an environment where students are more involved in their own learning process. And this brings me to my next point, which is point number 6, organization of subjects. Under the LOMCE, subjects were categorized into 3 distinct blocks: core subjects, specific subjects, and free choice subjects. Core subjects were considered essential across the national curriculum, while specific subjects provided additional but predefined learning areas, and free choice subjects allowed for some tiny regional or school-based customization. This rigid framework limited flexibility, giving schools and regional governments less room to adapt their curriculum to local needs or particular educational goals. Conversely, the LOMLOE moves away from this strict classification, allowing for a more adaptable approach. This reform gives greater autonomy to regional governments and schools, enabling them to modify their curriculum structure according to the unique needs of their students and the local environment. Schools can now customize the subject offerings that align with local priorities and educational objectives. This flexibility also allows schools to better respond to students' interests, fostering a curriculum that is more inclusive and responsive to real-world contexts. And last but not least, we have point number 7, which is a focus on equality and sustainability. The LOMCE didn't place significant emphasis on issues related to gender equality, environmental sustainability, or social and emotional education. Those were not Rajoy's priority, as you may know.
¿Qué quiere que le diga? Somos sentimientos y tenemos seres humanos.
These topics were not central themes, nor were they prioritized as goals across any subject. As a result, students may not have encountered these themes as part of their education, limiting the opportunities to build a strong foundation in these critical areas from a really young age. By contrast, LOMLOE introduces a clear focus on fostering values related to gender equality, environmental sustainability, and emotional education across the curriculum. Gender equality is embedded as a core value to promote respectful relationships and to challenge stereotypes. Sustainability education encourages students to understand the impact of human actions on the environment, and emotional education, another key addition, helps students develop self-awareness, empathy, and interpersonal skills, supporting both the personal and social development. So these are the main characteristics that distinguish LOMCE from LOMLOE. These differences are crucial for teachers as they impact not only how we teach, but also how we assess and promote students. Now I would like to hear your thoughts. Do you think LOMCE is better than LOMLOE? Have we improved our education with LOMLOE, or have we gone backwards? Feel free to leave any comments below if you would like. Thank you for watching, and until I see you guys next time, stay curious. Bye.